I've been looking forward to the reading tonight and to introducing Judith. We know she writes poems, stories, essays, and books. Her work has appeared widely in journals and anthologies for more than 30 years. In 2008-2009, she published the Ash Creek series, which is a signed, numbered edition folding broadside, a manuscript in a cartoon envelope, Family Business, and 4-period English, a chapbook of poems about immigration and related themes. Her poetry collection, What If Your Mother, offers poems and monologues examining a range of motherhood themes. She's also the author of 2 prose books about motherhood, Our Mother's Daughters and Every Mother's Son. Her Grace Paley's Life Stories, a literary biography, is a study of the internationally known writer, activist, who died in 2007. We know she's an experienced speaker and performer of her work, with years of performances in various media, radio, TV, bookstores, etc. She has received awards and grants from the Oregon Literary Arts, the Deming Memorial Fund, the Puffin Foundation, and many others, as well as residencies and fellowships. She's taught literature, writing, and interdisciplinary topics in women's studies in high schools, colleges, libraries, really, etc. This included a state prison and a county jail. She holds a PhD in literature, an MA in women's studies, an urban preceptorship in preventive medicine, and a BA in English. She is the poetry editor for the online magazine On the Issues and the creator of ZAP Writing Workshops. A native of the Great Lakes, she lives in the Pacific Northwest. She's currently on work on 2 collections, one of poetry and one of short fiction. And you probably gathered by the introduction that I've given that there's much more that we could say. So please take a look at her website, www.juditharcana.com. Would you join me in welcoming our poet tonight, Judith Arcana. Judith?
I can see you without my glasses, but I can't see what I'm going to read to you without my glasses. So. Thank you, Tom. Thanks to all of the people who make this series happen, which is one of the most delightful and welcoming series. This is such a wonderful place to listen to poetry, and I'm about to find out, I'm sure, to read poetry. I'm very grateful for the fact that you create this month after month. It's wonderful. And thanks to all of you for coming tonight.
A little closer to the mic.
Oh, closer to the mic.
High. That's a little high.
How about that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can hear the reverb myself. Okay. I'm going to start with what in my own notes to myself is always called OPP, Other People's Poetry. I like to read a few poems by other people that I think are quite wonderful, and of course I hope the audience agrees. This first one is by Nina Cassian, translated by Naomi Lazard. It's called, Please Give This Seat to an Elderly or Disabled Person. I stood during the entire journey. Nobody offered me a seat, although I was at least 100 years older than anyone else on board. Although the signs of at least 3 major afflictions were visible on me: pride, loneliness, and art. She's good, isn't she? This one's by Connie Wanak. I've been reading this a bit, so maybe if you've been in the same place that I've been in recently, you will have heard it. But you'll be glad to hear it again, as I'm glad to read it again. It's called Monopoly. We used to play long before we bought real houses. A roll of the dice could send a girl to jail. The money was pink, blue, gold, as well as green, and we could own a whole railroad or speculate in hotels where others dreaded staying. The cost was extortionary. At last, one person would own everything. Every teaspoon in the dining car, every spike driven into the planks by immigrants, every crooked mayor. But then, with only the clothes on our backs, we ran outside, laughing. This one's by a guy called Robert Kelly. It was completely news to me when I found this. It's a prose poem. It's called Theology of Mind. When I say mind, I mean desire. When I say desire, I mean you. When I say you, I mean your skin. When I say your skin, I mean the way in. When I say the way in, I mean the way into the dark. When I say the dark, I mean the place where there is listening. When I say listening, I mean listening to the word. When I say the word, I mean a bone. And when I say bone, I mean the ocean. But when I say ocean, I mean a book. And when I say book, I mean the law. And when I say law, I mean tethers and fetters. When I say fetters, I mean a knife. And when I say knife, I mean wisdom. When I say wisdom, I mean your body. And when I say your body, I mean your mind. Robert Kelly. This one's by James Galvin. It's from a longer piece called Blue or Green. We don't belong to each other. We belong together. Some poems belong together to prove the intentionality of subatomic particles. Some poems eat with scissors. Some poems are like kissing a porcupine. God, by the way, is disappointed in some of your recent choices. Some poems swoop. When she said my eyes were definitely blue, I said, "How can you see that in the dark?" "How can you not?" she said. And that was like some poems. And the end of the Other People's Poetry section is a tribute, a memoriam for Lucille Clifton, who died in February. This is one of my very favorite, perhaps my very favorite, although picking one of anything that's a whole bunch of stuff you love is probably crazy, but certainly difficult. This one's from The Terrible Stories. Why is what I ask myself. Maybe it is the African in me, still trying to get home after all these years. But when I wake to the heat of morning, galloping down the highways of my life, something hopeful rises in me, rises and runs me out into the road, and I lob my fierce thigh high over the rump of the day, and honey, I ride. Lucille Clifton. And now me. Now I'll read poems by Judith Arcana from what I call my books and book-like objects. This would be one of the book-like objects. It's the folding broadside that Tom mentioned in that long and always embarrassing introduction. And it's got 5 poems in it. And I actually must say, I love this piece. I was helped a lot by Matt Kiefer at Ash Creek Press in putting this together. It was Matt who chose the fire on the front. So this is from Poems. The first true thing. You're sad to leave the first true thing. The first true thing you know won't stay. It runs like water all down your life, rushes hot behind your heart, slides inside like dreams talking. Deep whispers in your mind will go on telling that true thing. That true thing will go down rocks, into ground on past deep winter, gone. But you can know it. You can remember. Use it to learn language for listening, for seeing things when they're really there, yes, and when they're not. I read one from that because it's a little book, or book-like object, and from the actual book, the book-length book, as I like to think of it, also mentioned by Tom, What If Your Mother? I'll read 3. This book contains poems about aspects of motherhood that are rarely included in the sort of Hallmarkian version of maternity. And these 3 will definitely be non-Hallmarkian. And this first one is called The Spade. Nobody wants to call a spade a spade. A pointed shovel, sharp enough to dig into the earth, dig a small hole, smaller than a baby's grave, small as a not done baby body, so small nobody but the mother wants to say dead. Nobody wants to say baby. Nobody wants to say dead when it wasn't done yet. Maybe people think they'll be blamed if they say the almost baby is dead. Maybe. But they won't be blamed. No. Only the mother will be blamed. Everyone will say, she lost it. When the unfinished baby is dead, no one will say it's dead. Instead, they'll talk as if she left it on the bus, dropped it in the park, stayed in the woods too long when it got dark. She turned the wrong way off the highway, didn't ask directions, didn't take a map. She had it with her when she went to sleep, but waking on the white bed, looking up at blue fluorescent tubes, she knew she'd lost it. Some people won't blame her. The people who won't blame her won't say she lost it. Those people will say she had a miss. Their different diction will not blame her, but they won't say dead baby either. They won't say the almost baby is dead, but they won't blame her. There's no blame in a miss, they say. These things just happen. Anybody can miss, or be missed, or have a miss. Like if you oversleep, and even though you rush, you miss the train. Or if somebody close to you, somebody very close, goes away suddenly forever, you miss that somebody. That's how they say it then. And this one, a different but related subject, is called You Don't Know. You think I didn't care about that baby. Didn't wonder if we'd like each other when she turned 14. Didn't think he'd follow anywhere his older brother went. You think we'd take them out like gangsters, disappear them like generals. You don't know how it works then, do you? You don't know what sits on both sides of the scale, what it means to decide. What I got and what I gave that baby I didn't have. Baby who couldn't make me laugh, applesauce upside down on her head, couldn't make me cry, taking his first step right off the porch. You don't even know that this is not about regret. You don't know one blessed, I say blessed, thing about it. And this third one is called Great with Child. You think you did not nurse because you did not suckle the child, because calcium never leached out of your bones to make that miniature elbow, and blood from your own uterus will never scab on those still perfect knees, because your labia did not tear a ragged edge of red flesh around that newborn skull, its cartilage never molded to the walls of your vagina. You think you may be a fraud, counterfeit, but you are no less mammal than any lowing cow. Snuffling like a monkey, you rub your pelt thrillingly against the child's. Like dolphins, you two swim inside a wide, blue, sliding shadow. And like a bitch in her den, vixen in a thicket, you lie down and open yourself utterly when that child comes to your body. That child softens like wax to your body, like your own breasts between your shoulders. The child rides there, resting like your breasts on your belly, feeding on you, feeding there where your breasts wrap your heart, and you wrap the child all round with your arms, large, grown large. You are great with the child. That's the motherhood book. Please excuse me. This next one, which I love in a different way, but just as much as the beautiful folding broadside, and I love it for its silliness, is this envelope with this cartoon. You can get a closer look at the table if you can't see from up here what I'm holding. It's a cartoon that was in the New Yorker in 1989. One gets permission to use these things with appropriate copyright lines. I thought that it would be a chapbook when I was working with the Ash Creek people, but wound up deciding that I would create a new form, which doesn't seem to have caught on yet, but I'm waiting for the groundswell. Soon everyone, perhaps many of you, will do this. It's a poetry manuscript in a cartoon envelope. This one happens to be called Family Business. And I'm going to read two poems from this chapbook manuscript in a cartoon envelope. From the title, you can tell that family is involved. I'm going to read two father poems. This one's called 86. Today's my father's birthday. He's 86 and thinking maybe he'll kill himself. 86 himself. He says he wishes there was a button so he could push it. They should have a button, he says. You could just push when you're ready to go. He doesn't know this is his birthday. He's not expecting a birthday. He doesn't expect. He's always surprised to hear my voice on the phone, my voice at the door. He knows me, I think. I believe I give it away, calling him Daddy, saying my own name. I am the daughter. The sons are my brothers, playing tricks like mine, saying their names, wanting to be known, getting what we can. When he scatters ideas, we rush in like pigeons under the bench in the park, where an old man sits, brushing crumbs from his jacket. And this one I wrote not very long, or about a time not very long after that. They were both written in roughly the same period. This one's called Soon. This was actually begun, or is about Soapstone, the women's writing retreat in the woods not far from here. And of course, partly it's describing that situation. Soon. I go to the woods to write, and the phone rings there, where I sit among the cousins of telephone poles, their mothers, aunts and uncles, fathers still rooted and deeply breathing. The phone rings, and I answer from my chair in a room of glass, tall windows gleaming into green, leaves and needles waving in a rising wind, gesturing to each other here in the woods where, oddly, the phone rings. My father is dying. I know he's been slowly loosening connections, his breath so quiet I strain to hear it, all of him slower and getting smaller, even the slight smile at his own impatient preference for shade. Now he's picking up speed like the forest breeze, soft still, but swiftening, using up time faster than flying 1,000 miles. Leaves is suddenly a verb. Needles are surgical steel. Lately when I called, he'd say, "See, dial this number, you still get me. Today you did, soon you won't." He laughs and coughs a little. Soon I'll be in his room, gone from these windows made of light. I'll be gone from trees made of light by science and magic, to sit in the dark by his bed where he says, "No, no, don't open the curtains. It's too much. I don't want the light." That kind of clarity, however haltingly articulated, was a great gift in that hard time. I was grateful to my father for that and many other things. This book, Fourth Period English, I should say, or I want to say, that both this one and this one have covers by Portland artists. This one is by Abby Marble, who began with a watercolor sketch and then did the rest of the work on her computer in that astoundingly magical, amazing, totally confounding to me way. For What of Your Mother? And this one, David Schratter drew. He and I drove over to Roosevelt High School, and with the permission of one of the English teacher of course, sat in her classroom while he drew this. I have the original, bless him, in about an hour, which also, just fills me with amazement and delight and all of those other related experiences. So, this one, Fourth Period English, I'm going to read two poems from this. This is a collection that works in a couple ways, like a play. I want people to read it from beginning to end, knowing very well that I have no control whatsoever about the way people read what I publish. You write it, you put it out in the world, people do what they want with it. They can wrap their fish in it. Hopefully they'll be this good looking, those fish. But really, in this case, if you're going to read this book, and I hope you're going to read this book, please read it from beginning to end, because it works like a play. It has a dramatic arc, it tells a story, every poem is a different character, and the conceit, the motif here is that every poem is somebody, and in a couple cases more than one person, talking. And all the titles have the word talking in them. And it takes place in an English class, fourth period English. The teacher appears, a couple of adults, but mostly these are high school students, and they're talking about immigration and the issues that rise when we try to talk about immigration, race and class and border and boundary and ducks. Ducks, they fly over no boundaries at all. So, I'm going to read two. This is Vicente talking. "You believe I'm not so good. Not good like you, gringo boy, but you don't know anything. Even in your own language, su lenguaje, su idioma, que hard, sharp tongue of sound, no one can love in, no one can cry in. You don't know how to talk a baby to sleep, how to make your mommy smile, your papi proud. No sabes, chico. You sure don't know why Aurelia won't look at you on the street after school, but I do." And here's Aurelia, I just mentioned, talking. "You think we all come from Mexico, and up here, maybe that's the most, but also Guatemala. Do you know where that is? And even Colombia, far away as that is from this huerta, far from these apples and pears. I wonder if you even know these other countries are in the world with you. Like you call your country America, but it isn't. This place is only Los Estados Unidos, the United States of America. A chunk of a chunk, a piece of a piece del norte. Comprendes? Do you know Canada has more land up there on top of you? Do you know Brazil is almost as big, and it's only part of America del Sur, the whole South? You think you know where you are, where everybody is and should be, but do you? I like a girl with attitude. You know, when you create characters, it's such a funny thing. I used to hear fiction writers say things like this and think, yeah, right, of course. Once you create them, they are people in your life. And so I made up these kids, and now I love them. And I care about them, and I think about them. And I think about them, of course, in relation to the real kids in the United States and the rest of the world. So I think, yeah, go get him, Aurelia. Really, I would hear these fiction writers say, well, you know, that's what the characters wanted. And I would think, please. Well, turns out that's what the characters wanted. Okay, so now I'm going to read what in the Poe biz is often called uncollected work, which means some of this has been published in magazines, some of it has never been published anywhere. It is not in a book, mine or anybody else's. At first I thought, well, just do them in alphabetical order. Then I thought, no, do them in chronological order. Then, because I was, after all, as I was discussing with a couple people earlier, a high school English teacher in another life, I decided to do them thematically. So then, of course, I was stuck with the problem that really, you know, you could pick any theme and make it fit if you've got your wits about you. So here are the themes that I chose. First, I'm going to read a little bunch of poems that deal with luck, fate, chance, I'm reading now, and the mysteries thereof in various guises, dreams, politics, scholarship, whatever. Okay, this one's called Not from China. A little tray with the check on it. A white plate with fresh orange slices incongruously accompanied by peppermints in twisted plastic, and the cookies folded tightly around the magic words. Some are aphorisms. To the young, one day is long. To the old, one life is short. Some offer admonition. Where there is discord, we must learn to give way with grace. Some provide character analysis. You secretly resent the good luck of others. But rarely, almost never, do they tell your fortune the way you need it told. Bad news or good, surprise or confirmation, the way you long for when you break open the crisply baked almond paste to remove the tiny slip of white paper, flatten it, smooth it, yearning to see printed there the words of a gypsy, a voodoo witch, letters rising faintly from burning incense, words shimmering inside flame-lit crystal. You want to be told what will happen. Yes, you do not want to be told what will happen. No, both. In another mood entirely, can safety matches make us safe? Are matches still labeled safety matches? Does that still say that? Okay. I smoked as much as I could when I was a smoker, but I'm not a smoker anymore, so I've been rendered ignorant. Can safety matches make us safe? You read the tiny cardboard book before you scratch the strip under Augie's New Pizza. On the back of MIA, we still don't know. And isn't that the truth? Earn college credit at home, taking tests on a screen being screened. Bad credit? We can help. Just remember to close cover before striking or go out on strike. 3 strikes, you're out of the fire into a plastic frying pan. Teflon on electric glowing rings. Not like when your phone rings and someone tells you what you know you don't want to know. This one's called Another Mark of the Teacher. interdisciplinary studies in philosophy and literature, and then in parentheses, of course, 20th century topics. Interdisciplinarity are us, right? Some of them said, context is everything. Sometimes they said, there can be nothing without context. Nothing can be known without its context. And you can't know a thing or speak of a thing without being part of it. That's another thing some of them said. They used to believe things could be separated, isolated, could be in and of and unto themselves. We don't think that. We know better now. There is no thing itself. Though even Virginia Woolf, yes, used that phrase to mean something, something, she was always part of it, whatever it was. The tall desk, the cup of tea, the pen in her hand, stones in her pocket. Leonard. Yet all of it was only what she thought it was. Like it's only what you think it is, and me, what I think it is. We are only always ever saying what we think it is. Whatever it may be, it is not itself. You are not yourself today, or ever. And the last one in that thematic set is called Okay, All Right, Yes. I wrote this a little while after the bridge came down in Minnesota. So many terrible things happened. I'm just reminding you that there was that one. Okay, all right, yes. You think you know what's going to happen, but you don't. You know only what you think is going to happen. And if what you think happens just like you think it will, what'll that prove? Anything? Only maybe this time you got lucky. Hit some real good luck. Luck so good it makes you think you know something you don't. You think she's coming home. You think he's not lying. You think that shiny elevator won't stall, that bridge won't fall. You think the sun is going to shine in your back door someday. And maybe it will. Maybe it'll shine in right on you. But what'll that prove? You think your luck will change when it's bad, and when it's good, it won't. You think you'll live until you die. And hey, okay, all right, yes, you can have that one. That one's got to come true. Then I split off into a different theme. Poems in which not human elements are used to talk about essentially human concerns. You can tell by the way I say it, I'm a little shaky on that one. But the poems, I'm not a little shaky on those. Okay, this one's called This is the Kind of Dream Where You Know You're Dreaming, But You Are Anyway. In this one, I'm on a long, narrow beach of gritty gray sand, alone. Nobody is on this beach but me and some gulls skirting the edge of the water where small silver fish lay dead in heaps of ropey, dark seaweed. I'm walking slowly, watching the sky move. The sand is hard-packed in hard rain. My clothes and hair are wet, and I'm crying, thinking about the little fish, dead, and the seaweed, dead, and the scavenger gulls who live by eating the dead. The sky is iron. There's more rain up there. I just realized I'm going here from rain to snow. Okay. Not this season, but it happens. Snow in Montana. I've been surprised by snow on a mountain, living wrapped in sunlight, wrapped by sunlight, sleepy and loose, as if nothing had ever gone cold inside of me. I lie down on wooden planks outside my door, lids closed outside my eyes, gold sun burning red inside my head. I sleep in the sun, wake to find snow on my mind. I know that on the mountain, deer, elk, bear, and lions with eyes burning gold like the sun live inside cold biology, not surprised. I always reserve the possibility inside my head that I will change in the middle of what I've arranged, but I just decided to do it and then not to do it. This next piece is called This Side of the Water. And when I was preparing for this reading, this is how current this one is. I wrote it a while ago, then I futzed with it, and then I put it away. And when I was preparing for this reading, I thought, well, what if I just take off the first two stanzas and then... So I left it, but if one of you thinks, or many of you think, why doesn't she take off the first two stanzas, you'll let me know. It's called This Side of the Water. When the rain wind comes, green leaves turn over gray silver, but that tree there, who can say why or how it happens, that one's leaves turn gold over there, across the river, see? Beyond silver and gold, gray and green, are two great cedars, standing this side of the water, slashed open to the red, red heart of the wood. Heart's blood is flesh for them, no separation. And blue is not only for berries, for tipping delphinium stalks. That big spruce on the hill reflects the northwest sky, gray-blue as if dusted, beyond deciduous green, striking among firs. Which of these might have the knowledge of good and evil? Which is the tree of life? And is there a tree of death, iron hard, tall beside an underground throne that has no need of shade? If we eat of its fruit, we become like gods. Is that good? Evil? And what are they like, gods? Do we know? Do we desire what most of us find in translation, paraphrase, mediation? Do you understand the languages of trees? Most of us can't ask them these questions. We can only raise our eyes, worship their somber glory, delicate grace, rough skin made of rain. And the last one in that thematic set. I have a little epigraph line after the title. The title is We Don't Have to Think as They Do, which is a line from the poem. And then it says, after Amy Lowell. Not that Lowell wrote something like this, that Amy Lowell was in my head because of her imagery. And I thought, look what she did, look what she did, look what she did. So, you have to have something to reach for. I was reaching for Amy Lowell sitting there at night, smoking her cigar, writing truly great poetry. We don't have to think as they do. We're moving from lake to lake while the first three mothers die. One city follows another till all the sidewalks are surrounded with green. Candles burn into something else, and there's a wandering rope of clouds pulling one small star into the clearing above our heads. We've been watching for it. This summer night, the sky is filled with moving gray mountains. The river is liquid slate, rapids bright like snow in a dark city, like the Milky Way to long ago eyes above lips that never knew candy. Some of them may have called it, as some of us do, white water. Others called it river clouds. We see towering billows, thickly backlit with gold. We see giant thunder anvils rise black as midnight to shiver silver lightning, to crack their bodies while we weep fierce rain. Imagine the poets lyric mares racing the moon as puffs from her cigar send little clouds across the desk late at night. Yesterday, the cloud that looked a lot like South America floated into the top of a big maple, disassembled itself in the branches, and emerged as Australia, with ragtag Tasmania morphing alongside. They talk of transformation at the college and the clinic, but we don't have to think as they do, and we won't. And I'm going to close with these two, which are literally so fresh that I change them almost every day. And I realized when I put them together as the freshest and newest, that they also are two that were sparked by something completely external. This first one of the two, which is called When You Turn Around, was an assignment given by Constance Hall and Steve Williams on Sage Cohen's website. And here's the assignment. They had plucked at random on pages of books 19 words that had to be the last words in the first 19 lines, and then they gave the hapless student poet the chance to go for the last word in the 20th line. And I had never, I know it's classic, but I had neither done this nor assigned it to writing students in my own classes. So I did it, and it's very cool to do this. So here's what I got. It's called When You Turn Around. And the last words are insane. I looked at it first, I thought, oh, forget it. But magic happens. You might wonder why there are so often stragglers when no one could miss hearing the broad gates clink, seeing its orange light flash as everyone leaves, vulgar like those alloyed coins dropping into the meter. Reading that gate for layers of meaning, you consider sundown and sunrise with all the stars between, any number of stars, tiny ripe fruit of the sky, thick as apricots ripening, hard as early peaches brightening to solar gold, hanging there branched and leaved, wearing their terribly thin fur. You stand still, look up, park your feet carefully, boots on the map where California lines up against Mexico, where tortas are sandwiches, sandwiches are tortas when you turn around, your ears surprised by language, lenguaje, your eyes startled when gray is eclipsed by naranja as northern hubris takes a walk over the border, committing countless socio-political felonies in 2 languages. Accents harmonize through each cadence, measures long list of difference, rendering inconceivable their one true history, yanked roughly apart in every episode of Manifest Destiny. Now you cannot remember or imagine then. Here's what the last words were. Would this give you a nightmare? Stragglers, clink, vulgar, reading, sundown, number, apricots, solar, wearing, park, California, sandwiches, ears, gray, walk, felonies, cadence, inconceivable episode, and then I going, got the word then. I felt lucky to get, first of all, a monosyllabic. So, that is very new, very, very new, and also came from completely outside of me until I took it inside and then did that with it. This one is an ekphrastic poem. It came from a piece of art by Mar Goman, another Portland, well, until just moments ago, a Portland artist. Now she lives in Washington, just 20 miles north, but still. A Pacific Northwest artist, Mar Goman, who is a worker in what the visual art people call mixed media, and some of that work may also be called collage. So nothing. I'm going to read it. All right. This is called The Poet Sees the Collage Artist Work with Words and Thinks of Shakespeare. Here's what the artist has done. Cut 2 little dresses from paper. They are twinned. Stitched onto paper those little twin shapes, suggesting dresses We see them as dresses. The artist has sewn a match with a red head on each dress. 2 matches stitched onto 2 dresses, each with red thread. Dresses and matches are brown. Both are paper bag brown. Those dresses with matches are sewn onto paper that's covered with words, torn jagged. Glue's been brushed over the batches of words, scraps from an outdated dictionary. Some are senseless, some are nonsense. Some make sense, make art, poetry, theater, a play. Those twin dresses are costumes. Behind the twin dresses, fragments, bitter, birthmark, blemish, birthplace, and botcher, a clumsy, a mender of old, botchery read in a clumsy of human. Then this, act born the in the of. That man, a mender of old, brushed his own twins and all of his words, with matchless glue across stitches impervious to time, rendering our blood to fix the botchery read in a clumsy of human. Each act born the in the of. Laughter or choking, grasping and flailing and burning red-headed matches right there on the stage. Thank you very much. So now I'm to answer questions, should there be any? Yes?
Yes.
But if there aren't any, I don't have to answer them, right?
What is your writing practice?
My writing practice. I was afraid someone would ask that. I know. Everybody does. We all want to know. How do you do it? How do you do it? Here's how I do it. Actually, we don't often say, here's how I do it, until somebody asks. I am not someone who writes every single day at the same time. I would like to write every single day, but I don't. I write in great bursts, and I make myself do the work of writing, sometimes even when I don't want to. For instance, right now I'm working on the short fiction book that you actually mentioned in that introduction, and I sometimes just have to, just go in the office, sit down at the computer, pick up your notes, because it is so hard, this particular piece that I'm working on. And other times, it's not like that at all. And I must say, to you poetry series people, you'll love hearing this, it's never been like that with poetry. I've written a lot of prose, fiction and nonfiction, and sometimes that's hard and sometimes it isn't. The poetry, I'm not saying it comes on wings from the muse. No, there's a lot of grunting and sweating. But I don't have to make myself do it the way I have to make myself do this one damn story that I'm just in deep struggle with. I would say that at least 4 days a week, I write for at least 3 hours. Many weeks, I write a lot more than that. But if I write less than that, then I'm cranky and miserable and sleep poorly and I'm nasty to people I love. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have you often worked directly with visual art for your inspiration?
Often, no. Just sometimes. I actually thought of doing a whole thing because it was so current, but then I picked these other ones. They won. But I've done a poem that deals with, or that is drawn from, pardon the pun, a couple of tarot cards from the Mother Peace deck. That's on the website if you want to go look. And I did a poem that gave me a lot of pleasure. That one was very difficult, but I loved doing it. Many of you probably know Auden's poem about Bruegel's Icarus. It's like one of the classic ekphrastic poems. I wanted to write about the work of David Schrader, the guy who did the cover for fourth grade English. He was doing at the time still life, a lot of fruit and vegetables, couple of onions, some amazing eggs. But then he was moving to landscapes, and I was thrilled by and still am, by almost everything he's done. And so I used Auden's poem as the form for my poem, so that it's about David's work, but it's in Auden's form. So where he says, about suffering, they were never, does he never or rarely? The old masters. They were never wrong, the old masters, and so on. I say a different kind of thing. About sunlight, he was blah, 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 the struggling artist, and so on. And I made the lines the same length, and it was so wonderful. It was thrilling, even though it was really hard. And I must say it's an awfully good poem, if I do say so, and I just did myself. That one's online in a magazine in Canada, but online, so it's called Studio. If you want to see it, I'll tell you about it when we break up and mill around. So, and I'm looking to do more of it. Definitely looking to do more of it. It's recently become newly exciting to me. Yes?
I have worked with students, and they usually want writing to be easy and to flow, and trying to get them to understand the process is a struggle sometimes. So when you say I'm struggling with a piece, what is it you're looking for and can't find, and why do you keep looking? So that struggle, why do you push yourself through? And something I could help us do.
It's good you make me answer this now, because I was just saying that to myself last night about this story that I was so, about a moment ago. One thing I thought, when you said why, I'll answer that part first. I thought, should I just jettison this? Maybe the collection doesn't need this. Maybe the book will be fine without it. But I don't think so. I think it's just cowardice on my part, so I have to keep working. So that's that part of the question. The other is, I want something to happen here on the page. I pretty much know what it is, although I haven't written that down. Sometimes it helps to actually write that down. What do I want to happen in this story? I've almost never done that, but occasionally, driven to it, I will do that. Mostly I just talk to myself, sometimes out loud. Your students won't want to hear that. So what do I want, and how can I get it? And then I think, well, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did that? And last night I had this wonderful, wonderful realization. I thought, one of those, oh, dummy, why didn't you think of this before? A writer, in this case, Grace Paley, of whom, I've actually written a whole book about Grace. I knew Grace. You never know when it's going to strike. Excuse me. Anyway, so I thought, of course, look at these 3 stories. She's doing this in these 3 stories. Go to the masters. Go to the masters. Copy it out longhand. Make it come through your body, up your arm, into you, and something will happen. It may not be what you had in mind, but something will happen. Talk about a starter. So I did that last night, way too late, sitting in the dark, sort of romantic little circle of light over the table, reading it and saying, here it is, here it is, here it is. This is how she did it. Now, am I going to do it exactly the way Grace did it? I don't know. But reading it the way she did it, and the it being what I want to do in this particular story, in this particular book, gave me a real kick. Pushed me forward, pushed me past. And then I scribbled a whole lot of notes, which maybe I can, understand tomorrow. So thanks for asking that. That's so current for me. So current. Oh, yeah.
You draft on the computer, poems?
Both on the computer, and I carry paper with me always. In every room of my apartment there are little scraps of recycled backs of things, so that if I think, oh, what if I did that, and then I can just the same. I don't know if I can say the same.
Equally pleasant.
Pleasant. Yeah, I guess so. Although it is a lot of fun to be on the bus or on Max or literally in the grocery store or something and think, that's the thing for that line, and then stop, pull the thing out of my pocket, scribble it down in the frozen food line, and then take it home with me. That is enormously enjoyable to have something like that happen. And again, I'm not talking about being struck by the muse. I thunk, something I thought, oh yeah, right, try that. Sometimes, you get home and you look at the scrap of paper and think, what? And it's just a scrap of paper. But yeah, both. I like being able to do both. I'll never stop writing the longhand notes. I don't want to, I have no need to, but I do use the box for pretty much the professional business. Yeah. Okay. One more. Wait. There is one more.
Okay.
What poets have influenced you the most?
The
What are your
most.
favorites? Maybe that's a two-part question.
Yeah. Well, Lucille Clifton, obviously, for her compression, her astounding ability to do huge things in the tiniest space. I'm not very good at that, but I'm impressed and, inspired. Grace, in both her stories and her poems, Grace Paley. Auden, longer ago, but still. How about this? Shakespeare. Really, when I was in high school, Deanna Thompson, my sophomore English teacher, introduced me to Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. That was the beginning. I think that made me an English major for life. And so while I can't say I write like the man, I will say that in terms of the question of influence, big influence, still thrill to the sound, the cadence, the imagery. I know a bank where the wild time blows. So do I, but I didn't say that. He did. Well, he said it first, So, and many more, really. Many, many more. Yeah. Okay.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, Paul Merchant will be here June 9th for our June reading.
We reconvene for Paul's reading.
Yeah.
So Paul's here tonight, and let's give Judith a hand.